Hi there, thank you so much for joining me today. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the top 5 do's when crossing the border with criminal inadmissibility. Please make sure to watch our second video in this little mini series that's called the top 5 don'ts when crossing the border with criminal inadmissibility. It is important to be well prepared and know what to expect when you are crossing the Canadian border and you have criminal inadmissibility. Therefore, in order to better prepare yourself, I have created the top 5 do's when crossing the border into Canada with criminal inadmissibility. Do be well dressed and presentable. Because you are entering Canada through a port of entry, the immigration officer must examine you physically in order to determine whether you are admissible to Canada or whether you are a threat to Canadian society. Therefore, especially if you have a criminal inadmissibility or a criminal record, it is best to be well dressed and presentable in order to avoid any further questions or any complications from happening. You don't necessarily have to be in formal wear with a tie and a suit, but it is best to be presentable and not cause too much attention to your clothing. The idea basically is to present yourself as a law-abiding citizen and recognize that the immigration officer does have the authority on whether or not they allow you to enter Canada. Do make sure your car is clean. This is a very important thing to do before crossing the border. As previously mentioned, the immigration officer is going to examine you as well as your vehicle physically. Therefore, it is best to make sure that everything is clean and there's nothing standing out. Furthermore, if the immigration officer does see anything suspicious or out of place, they may ask to search your vehicle. Therefore, to avoid this from happening, it is best to keep your car as clean as possible when crossing the Canadian border. Do turn off the radio and be quiet. When crossing the Canadian border, it is best to be as quiet and polite as possible and not have any background noise when crossing. This will especially help if the immigration officer has any questions for you in order for you to best hear them and understand what they're saying. Essentially, you don't want there to be any communication between you and the officer. If there is, there can definitely be more questions asked, and even worse, it can be actually a refusal of entry into Canada. Additionally, it is very important to know exactly what the immigration officer is asking for. That way you can provide accurate information and not give any information that wasn't previously asked. Therefore, it is best to answer all questions with accurate information, but not too much information, that way they don't probe or ask more questions unnecessarily. Do ensure you have the appropriate documentation. This is one of the most, if not the most important thing to do if you are criminally inadmissible to Canada. You must ensure that you have the appropriate documentation to allow your entry into Canada. So what I mean by this is that you should either have a temporary resident permit or a criminal rehabilitation application, that both of them should be approved in order for you to be authorized to enter Canada. These two documents are specifically created and intended for foreign nationals with criminal inadmissibility. Do understand your criminal history and your record. As previously mentioned, the immigration officer will probe and ask several questions with regards to your entry into Canada. Specifically, if you have criminal inadmissibility, they may ask further questions with regards to your criminal record and your criminal history. Essentially, the immigration officer must in fact determine whether you are a threat or a risk to Canadian society. As a result, their questions will be very specific with regards to the criminal record and the history, as well as the information that is submitted by the foreign national on their application. As a result, it is best to know all that surrounds your criminal record and your criminal history, such as what the sentence was that was imposed, what the charge was, how much time has passed since the completion of your sentence, and any other pertinent information. If you are a foreign national with criminal inadmissibility and you want to prepare yourself more or have any further questions with regards to temporary resident permits or criminal rehabilitation applications, it is best to talk to an immigration professional such as Akrami and Associates. If you do need any further help, please do contact us. With Akrami and Associates, there's always a way.